Hello, hello! So, today I'm going to start a new series. It's going to be a very interesting one, I hope. Basically, I aim to cover, well, hopefully cover, all openings and give you the basic concepts, the central tenets of the openings. And now, of course, if I'm writing a book on openings, I'll spend maybe 100, 200, or 1000 hours of like very detailed, comprehensive work. But for this video, it's going to be a bit of a shorter walkthrough of the of the opening, and we're going to discuss some basic themes. So this will probably be a multi-part series. I would like to cover the opening, of course, but I don't want to go into too much depth. I'll leave that for later work. And so we look at the basic pawn structure of the Caro-Kann, where the pieces belong, what white should do, what black should do. Then we look at the Caro-Kann endgame, which almost arises by force in a certain line, and I'll state why black needs to avoid that endgame and how black can improve to avoid that endgame, and what white should do should black improve. How white can get a decent edge from the Caro-Kann or get a chance for a playable game. So we'll take a look at all of that, and hopefully we'll better be able to understand the Caro-Kann and have an easy game both against it and while we're playing it. So the Caro-Kann, white has a certain central superiority. He better controls the center. He controls these two squares, while black only controls d5. And we'll see later on that d5 isn't such a great outpost for a knight because it's easily kicked by c4. That's a later consideration. We won't go through it now. Anyway, and white also has a bigger space advantage. So you can see here he controls more of the board, while black is a bit more passive with these pawns. But at the same time, black's pawn structure has no weaknesses at all. So that's one of the strengths of the Caro-Kann, and by extension the Scandinavian. This is the same pawn structure of the Scandinavian. So that's one great aspect about it. There are no weaknesses, but at the same time, black is a bit behind. He's a bit passive. So he needs to find a way to break through this passivity. And he does so by pushing c5 or e5. Now we're taking a look at the black plans. So since white has a certain central superiority, black needs to stop that control of the center and counteract that, and he goes c5 or e5. Now e5 is harder to achieve because the white pieces from their natural posts, like the f3 knight controlling e5, the rook on e1 and the queen on e2, they better control e5. So that's e5 is much more difficult to achieve for black and almost impossible in general cases. But c5 is much more easily achieved because only really the bishop on e3 can prevent that, and in the Caro-Kann the d7 the knight is commonly on d7 and there's commonly a bishop on f8, so you can't really prevent b5 for long, c5 for long. So that's one important break for black, basically the most important break. And white, on the other hand, tries to further cement his space advantage with moves like c4 and h4, and mainly he goes for a kingside attack with the knight on e5, this queen bishop battery, or this queen bishop battery here, or this queen bishop battery here, whatever the squares, as long as they're on this diagonal, this b1 h7 diagonal, and the e5 knight helps control f7, attack f7 rather. So and the rook on e1 can also lift itself up, rover its way through the black camp. So white has the kingside attack as one plan, and the other is the further cementing the space advantage. There's also a third uncommon plan which I don't really like, which is pushing the pawn to c5 and cementing a knight on d6, or even a bishop, but probably a knight is better. I don't like this plan much because after you push through to c5, the d4 pawn is weak, and black already has as a second plan making use of this semi-open d file. So that's one aspect I don't like, and it's generally the d6 knight here isn't so strong because it's easily traded off, or at least the threat of trading it off means that it can't stay here for long, unless maybe there's support by a bishop, so when you trade it off a bishop comes along, but then again maybe the bishop doesn't do much from this square. So it's a possible plan, but I don't really use it in my games, and probably I don't get much of a chance to use it anyway. Okay, but you can combine these three plans and for white and maybe get something going, and at the same time black can combine these central breakthrough plans and attacking the semi-open d file. Also, black can consider playing b5 to stop c4, or after white plays c4 he can even play b5, so that if white captures, the d5 square will actually become a hole. That's also another consideration for black. Overall, white enjoys a good space advantage and lead in development, but black has his chances, of course. The Caro-Kann is a very solid weapon and it's difficult to crack. Now, so we took a look at what white and black should do, basically, at the Caro-Kann. What about piece placement? Well, the f3 knight probably belongs on e5, the rook on e1, queen on e2 or d3, the bishop on c2 or d3, and the rook probably on the d file. So that's it for the white pieces. Now the black pieces probably come set up as d7, f6 for the knights, and the bishop should be on g6 or f5 or even g4, depends on what line. The light square bishop, that is. The dark square bishop d6 or e7, and the king castled either kingside or queenside. White also has both options in this Caro-Kann. Usually we're going to take a look at queenside castling for white though, and kingside castling for black, so that there are winning chances for both. Now if you're looking for the Caro-Kann as strong weapon, when white castles queenside, you follow suit and castle queenside, and white castles kingside, you follow suit and castle kingside. So if you want the Caro-Kann as a strong weapon, but of course we want to win as both black and white. So yeah, a good winning plan is just to castle on the opposite side, of what side white is castling on. And this is easily afforded also because in the Caro-Kann the queen belongs on c7. So from c7 you can both castle kingside, queenside and kingside. Okay, actually I should put the circle here. So that's where the king belongs, yeah. I really know the castling rules well, eh? Also, by the way, I'm reminded of a funny joke by Bent Larsen. So Ken Smith goes into this tournament. Ken Smith is the namesake of the Smith-Mora opening, or half the namesake of the Smith-Mora. So Ken Smith goes into this tournament wanting to try the Smith-Mora, going into new territory and stuff like that, and he loses 3 games to Grandmasters, and that's not the fault of the opening, it's the fault of, well, the lack of theory back then, so the opening wasn't well developed, and also the fact that Ken Smith was only an FM and severely underrated. Okay, anyway, so he goes to this tournament and he tries this opening and he loses the 3 games. So basically he just sacrifices a pawn for nothing in the view of, like how Bent Larsen viewed it. He just sacrificed the d4 pawn for nothing because the Smith-Mora is a bad opening, which is obviously untrue. So Bent Larsen made this joke that when a grandmaster played, or I'm not sure if he's a grandmaster, but anyway, when someone played e6 versus Ken Smith, he was like, what, e6? No, better is c5, winning a pawn, because Ken Smith will play d4 and you'll play c takes d4 and Ken Smith will play c3, so you've won a pawn from Larson's viewpoint, because the Smith Mora is a bad gambit. Yeah. Okay, that's it for a chess joke, eh? So, I have another joke in the Caro-Kann. Since black aims to play c5 in the Caro-Kann, why not play it on the first move? Crickets. Yeah, okay, that's chess jokery. Okay. So, yeah, anyway, now that we've covered the basic plans of white and black and how where the pieces belong, etc., we'll take a look at a certain Caro-Kann endgame, which is the bishop versus knight battle. Now, we can't start looking at a bishop versus knight battle without looking at the famous Fischer game, which included the bishop versus knight. Alright, so this game was played against Mark Taimanov, and in this game, Fischer was known to have many magical chess powers, and one of these is being able to win these seemingly equal endgames of bishop versus knight. But he did well to prove the bishop's dominance over the knight. So first we take a look at the pawn structure. This pawn structure is very helpful for white because the pawns are on opposite color of this bishop. The opposite color of this bishop. So the bishop isn't restrained by these pawns. He has free access to the entire board. And also note these pawns are even on dark squares, so that's another nice thing about this position. Now if the pawns were on light squares, the bishop would be able to protect them. One downside of these pawns being like this is that the bishop can't protect them. But the fact that the bishop isn't restrained is more important than him not being able to protect them. Okay, and at the same time, the black pawn structure affords itself to an attack from the bishop. So that's another plus for white. Now, what's most important about this position is the fact that these pawns are like this. So, if the pawn were on c4, this position would be a complete draw. Not only because the knight has access to b4, but also because the king can't penetrate into the black side. He's completely blocked. Now the king can actually penetrate from c4. And this is the winning plan for white. So, in an endgame, we need to activate the king. And in this specific endgame of bishop versus knight, there are basically two guiding principles. The first and most important is that the bishop needs to show its powers. And how does it show its powers? Well, the first thing is that the bishop can lock down the knight. So if we imagine that the knight is here and the bishop is here, the knight is tied down to the defense of this pawn, where the bishop can still attack this pawn from this square as well as this square, e8 and f7. So when the knight is defending a piece, it's only defending the piece. It has to stay on the same square to defend it. But the bishop can defend it from a range. And that's how we make use of the bishop's power. So we need to be able to make it so that the bishop can restrict the knight, and also we need to make sure that we're covering both sides of the board, because the knight is a very slow piece. It needs ages to be able to defend a certain square. Like if it's on the king's side and it needs to hop over to the queen's side, it can't do that quickly. But the bishop can do that in just a split second. So that's something that's very important for us to consider. Now the second thing is, of course, as in all endgames, we need king activity. So we need the king to be either here or here, so that it can attack these weak pawns and bunch them up and then guide its own pawns to promotion. So that's what we need to be looking at. So the first move in this position is pretty clear. It's king d3. Okay, just approaching with the king toward the queen side, where we want to try to pick up these pawns. Now don't forget that the first guiding principle, which is proving the bishop's superiority, it needs to be considered also from a Zugzwang perspective. And sorry for the Germans for butchering this pronunciation. My German is not up to par, unfortunately. Okay, so Zugzwang, meaning that we will make it so that black, whatever move he does, loses. So black wishes that he didn't have a move that he could pass, but he can't. So this is our aim also by proving the bishop's superiority. So anyway, the knight comes here, and as I was stating, if you remember 2 or 3 minutes ago, now that the knight is here, we can tie it down to the defense of this pawn and at the same time attack it. So attack and restrict. Okay, now the king approaches. It's blocking us from c4. Of course, us playing c4 immediately would be a huge mistake, because as I said, it's just a draw, because the white king can't penetrate, and the white bishop becomes useless, and also even the knight gets access to this square. But the primary thing is that the white king can't penetrate. So knowing this, we need the... Sorry, I misclicked there. So we need the white click to penetrate. Of course, king d2 would be a completely ridiculous move. Probably even losing after king e4. Yeah. So, king... oh, wait. After king e4... Oh, yeah, I have knight c6. Okay. I shouldn't spend time. I was looking at the variation king d2, king e4, bishop check, but it's protected. Because bishop check would be mate had the knight not been there. Okay, anyway. So the king needs to penetrate into the black position, and unfortunately the black king is stopping us, but again we make use of the bishop's powers. It's still attacking this pawn, and it also removes the black's king's restriction on the white king. So we check, we remove the black king restriction, now we penetrate with the king. King c6, again we want to remove this restriction because we want to be on b5, so check again. Okay, now it's on c6, so we keep marching forward with the king, right? Indeed. And now the knight comes to c8. Now of course capturing this pawn would be met by check and mate actually, which would be quite unfortunate. Of course Fischer is a decent player at 27, 40, almost 50 years ago, so yeah, he didn't fall for that. So he played this check here, further diverting the black king from its powerful square. Now if only the king could come to a6, but unfortunately our bishop is hanging. And also black threatens knight d6 check, whereupon the only legal move would be king a6 and the bishop would fall. So we just have to move the bishop, right? We just move it to d5. Okay, now the knight comes to e7. So we continue our plan of restriction, forcing the black king into the one and only square, which is b7. So anything other than b7, and we pick the b6 pawn, and if the knight moves, we pick the g6 pawn. We pick up the g6 pawn. So now we want to have this position. It's white to move here. We want to have this position with black to move, because had this position been black to move, we'd have the ability to penetrate with the king. So knowing this, we make use of a very powerful endgame technique, which is triangulation. So in endgames, when you notice that you want this position to occur but with the other side to move, you triangulate. You basically make like this triangle. Okay, I'll show you the move. It's bishop b3. So you triangulate, you go here, and then you go here, and then it's this position. So it's not really a triangle in this case, but you get my point. It's known from king and pawn endgames, which I hope the viewer is familiar with, the triangulation concept. So yeah, this is what happens. You triangulate so that it becomes the other side to move, the side you want to have the move. So now you go here, and now you check. And now the same position occurs but with white to move. On the previous move, the same position occurs but with white to move. We play this check, and now we can penetrate. So the knight comes to d6. Now there's nothing better to do than bring the bishop back to... So the king is optimally placed on a6, and It would probably be better even still on a7, but it can't go there. So we have to make use of this bishop, and we bring it back to a good square d5 where it can attack this pawn. Right? Rightio. So now our bishop is attacked. Now what can we do to defend it? Well, if we go to g7, I assume just king c6 and black really has no problems. However, if we go to c4, we kind of waste a move in a sense, so that we are better positioned to enter with the king. Like if we go here, the black king just goes to c6. If we go to c4, however, now the white knight, the black knight is free to move, but at the same time we have better control over the position. So now if we return back to g6, to f7, where we attack g6, we have gained a move, so to say. So now what remains is blocking the king's access to this square, because this position is almost zugzwang. So the black king, the black knight, cannot move from this square. And the black king, to keep defending b6, it only has this square. So if you play this move, zugzwang is achieved. Exactly this is what happens. And now, another key theme in these bishop versus knight endgames is that we can just sack the bishop so that we can win the resulting king versus king plus knight endgame. And here, which pawn do we capture, this or this? Of course we capture this, because if we capture this, king d6 protects the c5 pawn, while if we capture c5 first, we can pick up a5 later. But now we don't really need to pick up a5 because it seems like a waste of time, and we just go b4. I think here b5 wins, but Fischer played a5, if I'm remembering this correctly. And here he went king b6, I think. No. Okay, b5, yeah. Now after the check, he went king b6, king c8, and king c6, gaining the opposition. And after b6, I think, after king b8, he went b6, yep, and black resigned. So, a very fine display by Fischer. Okay, so since the octopus mode is activated, I can't really go back to show you everything, but it's alright. I think we don't need to cover this endgame in much more detail. Anyway, so this was how Fischer played in the bishop versus knight endgame. This will be very important for us in the Caro-Kann, because there will be a very similar bishop versus knight endgame. So okay, let's see. This position is a king at pawn endgame, which occurs also from the Caro-Kann. Now, this position is probably theoretically drawn, but in practical chances, in practice, due to the huge space advantage white has, I assume white has very, very, very good practical chances to win, almost a assured win. So this is the king endgame, the king and pawn endgame that results from the Caro-Kann line we'll look at. And there's worse still. There's this knight, bishop versus knight endgame, which is, and this is completely winning for white. Probably theoretically I'm almost certain it's winning, and practically 100%, if you know the plans, of course. So this is the endgame that results from the Caro-Kann that black should avoid by playing something earlier on, which I'll mention later in the video. Okay, so keep this endgame in mind. Now, okay, this is the game I want to show you. So here, how does white win? I'd love for you to pause the video and consider how white wins. Okay, so white wins by pushing the pawn to f6. It's white's move here, by the way, of course. So pushing the pawn to f6 and wherever whatever happens, either the pawn can't stay there because he takes, so he probably pushes or something, plays g6, and after g6 you have the bishop here, and h6 becomes a weakness. So we play f6 to divert the g7 pawn so that h6 becomes a weakness, and after h6 becomes a weakness you pick it off with this bishop and then you promote the pawn. And we'll see exactly this happened in the following game. So this is the Caro-Kann line we'll be looking at. I'll explain the moves briefly in the opening. So e4, c6, the Caro-Kann. Better is c5. Okay, I'm kidding. Actually, I highly respect the Caro-Kann, and it could be used as a good attacking weapon even if you castle on opposite sides. But its tame reputation, because some people just castle the same side as white, has made me sort of dislike, well, more the Caro-Kann philosophy rather than the Caro-Kann itself, or the Caro-Kann's player's philosophy. Caro-Kann player's philosophy. So, okay, e4, c6, knight c3, d5. Okay, so this is the line we'll be looking at, knight c3. D4 first, then d5, and knight d2 is what Nagy recommends in his excellent book. The e4 repertoire series, and of course that's a very good move order, I think, but okay, fine. This game went knight c3, takes, bishop f5. This is the main line, the classical variation. Lots of theory has been developed on the main line. There's this move also, knight c5, which has been very rare in practice, but it's very interesting, attacking b7. And there's a lot of theory on that. Well, not a lot. There's some theory because it's a very weird sideline. But black has shown equality, despite some lines not scoring well. But in the Caro-Kann book by Lars Schandorf, GM Lars Schandorf, he proved that black is alright. Oh, by the way, since I'm mentioning books, I forgot to mention the pawn structure that I took this. I cited it here from Mauricio Flores's excellent book, Chess Structures, a Grandmaster Guide. Highly recommended book. If you have it, if you don't have it, buy it, and if you have it, buy it again. Okay, so knight g3, just moving away from the bishop's attack, standard move. Other moves don't really make sense. Knight c3 just blocks the pawn for no reason. I don't want to do that. Delete move. I'm not logged in, so this move won't be uploaded anyway, but okay. Bishop g6, and now this h4 line. This line is probably the main theory in this variation. Its aim is to harass this bishop. Okay, so this move aims to trap the bishop, and the bishop obviously has to create some sort of safe space, so black plays h6, and now after knight f3, aiming to play knight e5. There's also the immediate h5, but okay, this game went like this, knight f3. Knight d7 is played, preventing knight e5. There's also other moves like knight f6, and after h5, bishop h7, white plays bishop d3. There are certain lines where you avoid this bishop trade, but black's bishop is so strong that white probably prefers to trade it. So this is what theory has proven nowadays. So the trade occurs, knight gf6, a very normal move. Bishop d2 is played to prevent queen a5s. So bishop f4 I think is also a line. Not sure if is it a line in this exact position or is it without h5. I'm almost certain it's a line in this position, so whatever. But bishop d2 is played here, and after e6, just aiming to develop this this bishop and going into the Caro-Kann structure we are so familiar with, white decides to castle queenside. This is the aggressive option. Well, of course, with the h1 on this square, you're not castling kingside anyway, so you made that clear from the get-go. Queen c7 remaining flexible. Black can still castle queenside with bishop e7 or even bishop d6 castles. But usually when you're castling kingside as black, you place the bishop on e7 because well, it's better able to defend the king side from e7. On d6 it serves purely attacking roles. When you put it on d6 you usually castle queenside. And if we want to remain aggressive with the Caro-Kann, and as Lars Schandorf notes, the Caro-Kann has a very boring reputation because black castles bishop d6, plays bishop d6 and castles queenside. So if you want to go for aggression, bishop e7, castles short is the way to go. Anyway, here white plays a very curious move, knight e4. Now this move is so interesting because what does it do? It aims to it seemingly has all drawbacks and no positives. So the knights, as they are configured on the black side, they are what Dvoretsky calls superfluous knights. And the superfluous knights basically mean that each one of them wants to be on the other square. Well, the f6 knight is optimally placed, but the other knight wants to be in its stead. It wants to be on f6. So it wishes the other knight was there. The other knight wasn't here. So when you play knight e4, and black gets to trade, and you take back, and black puts the other knight here, you're removing the superfluous knights. Not only that, but you're making this knight active. Well, I guess that's what happens when you remove the superfluous knights. And you're also losing a tempo with the queen. So what's really the point behind this maneuver? Well, the point is that after the knight attacks you, you go to e2 and not d3. So you do trade the superfluous knights, that's right, but what you gain is you also remove your stupid knight on g3, which really wasn't doing anything. You open up the g file for your rooks and, well, your pawn, I mean. And, well, basically you remove the clogging up of the g file. It's more accurate to say that. And your queen is placed on e2 now and not d3, because on d3 this rook would be opposite the queen. But on e2 it's perfectly fine being opposite this pawn, where not only is it not attacked, but it's also attacking e6. So that's a very important point of why we play this knight maneuver, which is very common in this line. And notice how all these moves are forced and natural, so you can get into the same position very frequently. So anyway, black castles queenside here. Usually the bishop is employed to d6 earlier, forcing white's hand, because he has to play the e4, because the bishop and queen would be attacking g3, so he has to play knight e4 now. But it's not in this game, and black just castles. So white goes for the typical c4, and here black goes for bishop d6. c4 aims to gain space. It's a bit weird because the king is here, but as you can see from this position, there's really no attack on the king. And a seemingly unsafe move, which is not easily exploited, is not an unsafe move. So this might look unsafe because generally, like in the Yugoslav attack, let's say, if you play c4, you're going to get mauled. But since the c file first isn't open or semi-open, and since both sides are castled queenside, and of course the piece configuration and the lack of pieces actually means that the white king won't get attacked that severely, so this is c4 is fine, and it gains control of the center and stops the d5 square from being accessible for a white knight, which would be more annoying here because you have less control over f4. So bishop d6, king b1, a very useful move. First of all, it gets out of this bishop trade. If the king were still on b1, there's also g3 as a move to prevent the bishop trade, but king b1 is usually always a useful move, and it gets out of the bishop trade. So king b1, should black go bishop f4, you go bishop c3. And besides, as we will see one move later, the bishop belongs on c3. So black goes for rook h8. I think this is already a slight mistake. Not a slight mistake, maybe a huge mistake, maybe a losing mistake. This is what we want to avoid. So in this position, if I turn on the opening book here, you see that c5 is most often played. And what I aim to do in this video is to prove to you that c5 is almost necessary. So c5 is almost forced in this position. If you want to castle queenside and play this line as black, you need to push c5 now, or even earlier. There are moments where you can push c5 earlier. Like perhaps already here you can push c5. I wonder if it's been played. Yes, c5 here. And if we go take a look at this game, where black actually won, Sofia Polgar as white and Gurmakin Vladimir as black, yeah, c5 was played here. And c5 just achieves equality basically for black. The game still goes on, of course. It has a bit of a dry character compared to other lines, but yeah. Because, well, black doesn't want the game and wants to castle queenside, so that's up to him or her. So c5 is almost necessary here. And what I want to prove to you in this video is that if black doesn't play c5, he's going to basically enter this bad endgame by force, and he'll basically lose. So c5 is necessary. Now, white goes for bishop c3, further controlling e5, getting his bishop on a better square, avoiding the bishop trade on f4, etc. Black goes for king b8, a useful move, but probably going in the wrong direction in this line. There are more annoying things to do. And now, white goes for the knight on e5. The white knight on e5 is so annoying. First, it prepares g4. Second, it puts severe pressure on f7, which means that the queen is stuck defending the stupid pawn. And, well, basically the knight is cramping the entire black pieces, the entire black army. So it needs to be removed. But wait, if it's removed, bishop versus knight. So if we trade all the heavies, which will be traded since the d file will be open, does that remind you of something? Yeah, that's my point. That's why c5 I think is necessary in this line. So it's taken in this game. Black goes for knight d7, f4, c5. Okay, this is an interesting move. There are other options. And white goes for rook d6. This is what John Nunn calls a collinear move. Now, in this case, technically, maybe it's not a collinear move because the knight doesn't have to, shouldn't be here. So, a collinear move would be something like this. And now rook d6. So the two rooks are placed facing each other, and one of the rooks just pushes through where it's supported by a pawn. So this is the collinear move. Remember it, like this. This is a very important move in chess. And here it works because black can't take twice because of this spin. Also in some other lines g7 would be hanging, but of course we win the queen. So this is an important aspect that you should remember in this line. Anyway, white here goes for rook d6. And here we see that since the d file is open, basically all the heavy pieces will be traded. Well, the rooks will almost assuredly be traded. But one key point we have to remember is that the queens sometimes might not. And if the queens are not traded, and we enter into a queen bishop versus queen knight endgame, actually black has the superiority in a practical game. And theoretically, it's drawn. So, well, in a practical game it should be drawn as well. But I mean, if you're playing blitz or bullet, facing the queen, an active black queen in your king in your side, and the knight, it's going to be very annoying. So we should also make sure that we trade the queens. Very important that we trade the queens. If we don't, we end up in a theoretically drawn position and a practically tough position to hold. So anyway, the pieces get traded here. Like here, king c2. Maybe black missed his chance to go queen h4 here, though I'm not sure it's that strong in this structure. Maybe just g4 now, and the black queen really isn't doing much there, and the black knight is a bit passive. But at the same time, for white to improve, he needs to keep protecting g4, and it's not so easy. So maybe black missed his chance here. There are better ways to play this position by forcing a queen trade from black or forcing a certain concession, if not the queen trade. So we'll look at that later. But anyway, this is what happened. The queens got traded, and now we're in this famous endgame. Haha, you're starting to see. And let's take a look at how it played out. We're back. We're back to where we started. So you see, actually studying common endgames from openings isn't such a bad idea, especially in this line where I've had this endgame actually about 30 times maybe overall, and I'll show you in the sample games section. We'll take a look at some of my games. So, yeah, but I unfortunately, after having studied this endgame this past week, like studying it really well, I haven't gotten the chance to see it again. So, and well, at my rating range, I assume people should know that they should break c5 earlier, or people don't even venture in the castling queenside Caro-Kann anymore. But okay, whatever. So let's try to test ourselves on this position. So first move is going to be f5. Yeah, I'm not going to belabor this point too much. We went over this. So black king goes here. We continue with our plan. f6, weakening g7, which weakens h6. Alright, we have to take back. It's forced. So now the knight comes to g8. So we need to maneuver some sort of plan where we win this pawn. Now, you can pause the video and think of plan. There are two plans, one of which I didn't consider, but when I was giving a lesson this Caro-Kann, the participants there actually came up with a funny plan I didn't consider. But the primary plan is what happened in the game, is to go king f4 and push g5, then push h6 later. What the participants in that lesson considered is king e5, which is an error according to this. I didn't enable all the variations in this study, so it's only one variation. But king e5, bishop d2, and g5. It's a bit slower than the plan played in the game, which is the immediate king f4. And now a very important move which you have to remember from Fischer's game. So the black king is trying to come in. If we play g5, maybe e5 can be played. No, e5 can't be played. But if we play g5, we're just practically not doing our best. What is practically best is to just shoo away the king. And now we play g5. Takes, and now we have h6 in the bag, and actually funnily enough the knight is trapped, so it has to sacrifice itself now, or after g7 it will have to sacrifice itself then, and then we promote to a clean queen. So we take, and now the final touch. How do we stop all black's counterplay and kill all of his hopes? b3, a very professional move. Of course other moves win like king g7, but yeah, b3, what a professional move. What a professional move. Alright. So now let's take a look at some sample games and see how they unfolded. And now we'll get into the nitty-gritty details of how to play this position. So we're repeating this again. I hope I'm repeating this opening several times, like I won't go directly into the end game, because I want you to memorize this. So memorize this passively, because if you're not doing it actively, you're going to be forced to memorize it passively. So yeah, here in this move order, we're not afraid of bishop takes g3, even though our pawns are doubled, but we get the open f file. And also black has this certain light square strategy where he puts all of his pawns on light squares, and thus the black bishop is very crucial in these structures. If the black bishop is removed, then black has all of these all of these dark square weaknesses here on these complexes. So it's not something we fear. And actually maybe after bishop d6, instead of going for knight e4 immediately, you could go for castles and provoke black like entice him to go for the wrong bishop g3, which I've had happen in actually high level games. By high level I mean over 2000, which is a pretty low level comparatively to Carlsen, but yeah. So yeah, this position here, the king went to b8, bishop c3, h8, and okay, so now the knight is on b6. g4 is a great move. I think b3 also is a smart idea. What I want to mention now, since we're here, is that there are several ways to play this position for black, all of which I think are losing, or very, like, maybe theoretically these positions aren't lost, but they're very, very difficult to defend, and there's no reason for black to enter them when he can play c5 earlier on. But anyway, after white plays f4, here interesting is also rook d6, but f4 is in keeping with the general plan of having this sort of I can't draw arrows at all, of this sort of structure on the king side, which I think is called the bathtub structure. Yeah, I learned that from Jan Gustafsson. So this is the bathtub structure. And actually, funnily enough, yeah, I was watching the Grenke Chess Classics, and funnily enough, Peter Lekko didn't know what it's called, the spawn structure. Not sure it's such a common name. Well, I'm not that well versed in chess literature to say. Okay. So there are several ways to play. So the knight could come here, the knight could come here. c5 immediately could be played, like our first sample game showed. And the king could remain on c8, or the king could even go to a8, or the king could be on b8. Now all of these considerations matter, because if the king goes to a8, like we'll see in one game, the endgame is extremely winning, because the king is so far away. So actually it's ill-advised, knowing that you're going to get into this endgame, to go there. Now the king on b8 is halfway. Like, it's probably easily lost, but there might be some drawing chances. All of these are theoretical considerations, by the way. And in a practical game, I believe even with the best case scenario for black, he'll easily lose. Well, if it's a longer time control game. The problem is that with short time control games, like some of mine, which I'll show you, I've lost to knight forks and silly knight stuff. So yeah, don't take that into mind, because in long games this won't happen. Also, even short games, I wasn't that strong back then. So yeah. The best case scenario is for the king. Okay. Dang it. Okay, it's for the king to be on c8 and the knight to be close by, not on b6, but maybe on c5, or even to remain on d7. That's the best case scenario, because that way, actually the best case scenario is for the knight to be on e7, where it supports g6, because in certain positions g6 just draws, and with the king being so close by, the black king, the endgame is much better. So theoretically speaking, practically speaking, I still think black would lose, but theoretically speaking, he draws. So, but there are ways to counteract this by not entering into the endgame. So if the king is on c8 and the knight is on e7, you shouldn't enter the endgame. But if the king was on b8 or a8, or the knight is on c5 or b6, you can enter the endgame just fine. So this will be better explained as we take a look at the sample games. So knight b6 is played, g4, probably I think b3 earlier, but yeah, okay, g4. Now b3 is necessary to defend the c pawn, but actually there's an even stronger move than b3, and I hope you can remember this from earlier. It's rook d6, the brilliant Collinear move. If takes twice, of course, and want to show this again, bishop b5, and now of course g7 is hanging, but there's something stronger. And after, let's say, like rook d6, knight a4, attacking the bishop needs to stay here so that it defends. So if it goes here, we just go c5, and like let's say we go here, now black can actually take. Oh, and I should mention that here the fact that the king on b8 isn't just important for the end games. It's also important because this bishop e5 tactic is available. So the collinear rook d6 is very strong when the king is on b8. If it's on c8 or a8, the collinear rook d6 is actually bad. And some games I think went like this, where the white side went rook d6 in these positions and didn't get much. So knight b6, g4. Now the collinear rook d6 is very strong, but it was unfortunately missed in the game. Knight a4, and now if we go to b4, and now after c5 we have the very cute move queen d3. So if black takes here, we just go here and we have a tremendous pass pawn which will win us the game. I don't think I need to go over this too much. And of course if black takes here, we just take and mate. Actually this would be stronger, but still, no, it's made. So rook d6 was a very nice shot that unfortunately black missed. So remember, when the king goes on b8, consider rook d6. King c2, alright. Now, yeah, white starts losing the pawns. This is what you need to avoid happening. King c2, yeah, b3 maybe needs to be played, though then queen h4 is a bit annoying, but still better than king c2 anyway, because after king c2 even queen h4 was possible. Yeah, queen h4, and this draws. So knight a4, bishop b4, white starts losing the pawns, and yeah, here it's still drawn, but black finds a brilliant way to lose. Queen takes g4 probably just draws. So black, not knowing that this endgame is lost, he found a way to lose. Takes, and now bishop f8. I think this endgame, it might still draw actually. It's a bad version of the endgame we want to pursue, but I think it still wins for white. But no, actually I think knight f4 was played in the game and this lost, but I remember there being some way to draw. Yeah, with knight e3. Yeah, that's actually an easy draw. No, maybe not though. Maybe the king can enter. Yeah, it's theoretically, I think this position might be drawn, but practically white will probably win a huge percentage of games. The engine is climbing up in the EVA though. Oh, is it theoretically winning? Let's try to think about this. Yeah, I mean honestly, but who cares? So it's a good exercise for the purists out there, of which I am one. But right now I don't feel like doing this on video. So yeah. Anyway, the pass pawn proved too strong in this game. Okay. So game number 2. Go over this opening again. We have 17 sample games actually. Of course I'll be going over them much more quickly later on, so don't get bored or anything. But it's a very important learning experience, because after you know that this endgame is lost for black, you can better be able to assess the resulting positions from the Caro-Kann. Okay, so here Mr. Alam, oh no my pants, went for queen e3. Of course a fine move, but again we want to shoot for that endgame with f4. Okay, this is still fine. He gets a good position, and here black should probably just capture here, because the queen is sidelined here and there's still an active rook here. It was a quick time control game though, so maybe black was enticed by giving a check, but yeah, taking the d7 rook is more prudent. Now black just lost time and the rook was on d7 instead of h1, so... King c8, rook d6, queen c7, yeah. So the queen is sort of misplaced here. Probably better was to keep it here where it attacks these pawns. Again, that's the problem with this line for white. If you're not careful, the queen could get active and it's a drawn position then. Both practically and theoretically. So yeah, this position b6 is probably also a step in the wrong direction. Adding pawns on the same color of this bishop where they can be attacked. Probably just not doing anything with king b8, but such a miserable position to do that. Just sit and wait. So here before, trying to force matters and make c5 a weakness. Of course black shouldn't take here, he should go with g6, which is the drawing idea I mentioned in this pawn structure. So what white needs to do is to be able to prevent g6, and since the knight is on e7, remember, I said this is the optimal place for the knight since it supports g6. But still, actually, in this position, owing to the presence of rooks, g6 isn't the drawing move. It's a helpful move, but as you can see by the eval, it's not completely drawn, as would be had there been only bishops and knights. So, black commits the error of taking, which is an error that happens when you... Well, the guy obviously isn't a beginner at 2200, but even strong players fall for that. This is what I call the intermediate error. Not intermediate, I mean by intermediate I mean that intermediate level players do it, which is releasing the tension too early. Of course beginners do it, but beginners have more problems than that. And even advanced players do it, but advanced players do it because they sort of return to their former selves, especially under time pressure and this kind of stuff, because obviously all games I'm going to show you are bullet or blitz games, so they're not that high quality. Not obviously, because I took them from leeches though, as I think it would be better to see the practical side of things. So knight c6 happened, and after bishop check the pawns fell off, and yeah, here if you go to b8 you lose the rook, and if you go here you lose the knight. So yeah, black resigned. So sample game number 3. Okay, we're going to take a look at the opening moves, of course. Again, this might get boring for some of you, but internalize it so well. Okay, here the rook trade happened first, which is a bit weird, but yeah. Again, queen e3. I prefer a 4. Oh, by the way, the player here is I am Mostrovsky, popular streamer. Check out his vids. Rook d6, the collinear move, right? The king is on b8, the knight is far. Rook d6 makes sense. Knight c8, and white doesn't choose to trade. Maybe a wise option actually, because then the queen would have access here. But at the same time, should white trade, the only access point is here, and this could be prevented by g3, no? But then maybe queen check. Yeah, and you lose this pawn, so then what about this? And queen h4 then really isn't that big of a deal. Yeah, perhaps, but then again there's queen h1, and maybe you go bishop b4 here, queen h1, or queen here now. Yeah, okay, maybe it was wise not to enter that. So we go into this, and Maybe it's nicer if we look at the... Oh, there's no comp analysis, but there is from the... Yeah, but here the analysis is here, so... Okay. Now here white is obviously winning. Here actually black should have returned here, because now if when he goes to a6, white has mating threats. So yeah, and black can defend the knight as well from a6, while on c8 he easily defends it. So yeah, here Mostrovsky did something weird. I don't know what his time situation was here. I'm not going to bother to look it up anyway. So this video is already long enough as it is. He could have just gone here and went for this easy win, but somehow he kept maneuvering his king in a weird way, and white had a draw here, black had a draw here with queen d3 check, repeating the position a billion times, because here it's the draw, right, with check. Or is there something even stronger? No, I think that's it. So yeah, but somehow black was able to allow white to return to that configuration, which he should have done earlier, and this position is one for white. White finds the nice moves here, which force the win by trading queens, and black had no way of avoiding that. I'm not going to cover this too deeply again. See, if it were a book, I would analyze this game to the greatest depth, because openings are obviously related to common middle game patterns and common end game patterns. Okay, so nice game here. Improvements, I think. Yeah, of course, queen e3 here. I wouldn't play myself. I'd just go for f4 for the end game. But anyway, we got some similar end game there, but here it's fm 1 Yaland 2 pretty strong. And yeah, this game featured the king on a8 and c5. Okay, this knight maneuver is so incredibly strange. Of course, it makes zero sense. The knight wants to go to d4, sure, but it's way too slow. Now f5 is going in the wrong direction, because this isn't the end game yet. If you go f6 intending to weaken this pawn, the rook is still here. It's way too early to go for that, and f5 is just a bad idea in such structures anyway. Here you should white should go for the collinear rook d6, and even though the king is on a8 and you don't have this tactic, but the g7 pawn is also undefended, so this can't happen because g7 would fall. And when g7 falls, this pawn structure, where this would lead to this, and rook h7 means that after here you go g5, g6, g7, g8, and black can't really stop that, especially with his knight sidelined here. So black's idea of maneuvering the knight to c6, yeah, not the best. So f6 happens, but again, this isn't the end game, bro. You're doing it wrong. Okay, here again we see the power of the bishop. Rook b6 is faulty. Rook b5 should have been played to prevent what happened in the game, which is bishop e5. Rook b6 trades, bishop e5, and you lose. So nice play by Wanyaland, but he went for the wrong plan, for the wrong reasons. Okay, sample game number 5. Now we'll start going through the opening really quickly. This video is getting way too long. Bishop f4 is a shot in the dark because the king is on b1. Oh, actually this is one of my games, yeah. So this is my account on chess.com. This is a very old game, I think. How old is it? 3 years ago? Oh, 2015. That guy. Yeah, my rating 3 years ago was 400 points less than now. My bullet rating, that is. So, yep. Knight g8 here. Yeah, this is interesting, intending to maneuver to e7, but it's too slow. But again, as I said, the king on c8, knight on e7, the most dangerous position if you want to enter the endgame. So in this case, do not enter the endgame. Do not. Yeah. And now it's just... Black went for the wrong thing here. He should just go g6. Or even g6 now, yeah. It just draws g6. You have nothing better than going for this sort of position, which is an easy draw. If white tries to maneuver here, you go here with the king, so yeah. But this isn't what happened in the game, and yeah, this is terrible because it enters the king and pawn endgame, which is completely lost for black. I have so much extra space that it's really easy. So the improvement on this game is that since the knight is on e7 and the king is on c8, I shouldn't be entering the endgame. I think here I should go for the... No, the collinear one doesn't make sense. The collinear rook d6 doesn't make sense because of knight f5. Now I need to remember the improvement here. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now I remember. Well, Stockfish helped me remember. The improvement is not going for the endgame at all. So when the knight retreats to g8, you exploit the weakness on g7 with queen g4. That's only what you need to remember. I won't go over this too much because obviously I myself haven't went over this too much, but yeah, this way of playing anyway with knight g8 and knight e7, it's highly tricky by black, because if white just enters the endgame and thinks he's winning, well, no, it's just a draw. But yeah, it can't be exploited this tricky way with not entering the endgame. Okay. So this game... Yeah, here the knight went on c5. The king is on c8 as well, so... Yeah, here... b4 is a terrible move. I should go b3. Yeah, after b3, there are some chances to win. What are other improvements one could go for? Yeah, maybe rook d6 here works. Yeah, rook d6 here works because g7 is hanging. But wait, f4 is also hanging. Maybe queen e3 here. Queen e3 is interesting. Bishop d4. Bishop d2. No way. It's going for g4. Yeah, it's not such a great idea, right? So with the knight on c5 and the king on c8, there is this certain... Like, rook d6 doesn't really work with the knight on c5. So yeah, I should go for bishop d4 and then try to maneuver your pieces to go for the endgame. It recommends knight e6, intending... Yeah, I think g4 here, and then you maneuver your pieces in a way to go for the endgame. What you need to be careful of here is that, yeah, this is too much. And here I made a mistake. Okay, here of course I had bishop d2 protecting both these pawns, but again bullet. I somehow managed to win this game. Yeah, this shows how strong this endgame is. Even after I lost the pawn for no reason, I still managed to win. And even in bullet time controls, where the knight should be really tricky. Oh yeah, he just played en passant. He just allowed en passant here, yeah. That was a very bad idea. And I maneuvered in a way to win this pawn. Here he could have captured g4. Okay, I don't know why I'm showing you this bullet game, because it's really a terrible game. Oh wow, the time scramble here. Fishy the flagger. Oh no. Yeah, I'm fast. Okay. Aha. So queen d5 here. Of course, if I go c4 here, I get into the straight. So, we somehow transposed. What the? We transposed to a weird line. This is a funny game. This is a ridiculous game. Okay, so I think here, yeah, queen g5 was a mistake because the doubled pawns lose in the end game. And I did an okay technical job here, even though it was bullet. Here he lost the pawn, and yeah, okay, whatever. So, I probably should remove this game because it's really dumb. Not only the opening, but maybe we can get something out of it if we discuss the opening a bit. So this position, oh yeah, here black hasn't yet committed. So with the bishop on e7, he could castle kingside. So bishop on e7, castle kingside. Bishop on d6, castle queenside. For the reasons I mentioned at the start of the video, which is that the bishop on e7 better protects the queenside, the kingside, and the bishop on d6 is more active for queenside castling. Yeah, but in this position I wrongly assumed that he'll castle queenside, so I went for this endgame plan. Actually, against bishop e7 short castles lines, or not castling at all lines, like in this position, I like after they try to trade queens with queen e4 to go queen f1 and then put the rook here. Yeah, I had this plan so early on. I rediscovered this plan like 2 months ago, but I guess I had this plan because this game I think was from a year ago or something. Yeah, it's 2017 December. So yeah, this plan is very recent in my mind to go for this stuff. I had it in a creative, like a creative spur of the moment thing when I was playing a bullet match against FM Magic Andy, who made a Niam norm, by the way. Congrats to him. He's a really strong and upcoming player. Okay, I'm diverting too much, going off on tangents again. So let's take a look at game number 8. Yeah, these same things repeat themselves. The king on a8, so this is a beautiful version of the endgame. Not sure I should have gone to a4, just go g4 here. Bishop a5. Bishop a5 is just a shot in the dark. It's a fancy way to pin, yeah, but... so I went for this endgame. Okay, this endgame looks quite interesting for white. Of course, here I should capture the pawn and create a passed pawn, but I'm dumb. Here I allowed too much counterplay, and the game ended in a draw, right? Yeah. Oh wait, I'm not the one playing. Alberto has. Yeah, okay. So, in this game, Alberto S should just go for the end game. and when the opportunity arises to take a passed pawn, not enter into a drawn queen endgame. Okay, so with the king on a8 here, the endgame is better. And here, yeah, because the king is on 8, h4 isn't available anymore. So black either has to go passive with like queen e7, after which queen d6 is really strong, and or trade, which enters the losing endgame. So yeah, g5. Oh no, bro. Oh no, f5 needs to be played. And I think this got drawn. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, you needed to go f5, bro. f5. Knight d7. Yeah. Is this endgame? Is this one of those drawn endgames though? Because maybe here better pressure needs to be applied, like with bishop e3. Then knight c8, maybe here knight e7. No, knight e7 loses the, yeah. So you have to play like b6 and then f5, e7. You're not in time. The bishop. So we go for this plan. Yeah. So there were better ways to play this endgame for white. Alright, game number 10. This cycle repeats itself. So the bishop is on e7 actually. Oh, then it maneuvers to d6. What a waste of time. But actually I think this is a brilliant way to waste time. Because now the king goes on c8 and not b8. And the Rick and Morty, and the rook isn't on e8. So maybe this was a clever way to enter the endgame. Yeah, or maybe not. Yeah, here again, queen h4 just draws. What I need to do after knight b6 is yeah, just g3 here, b3, and if takes, we're fine. Here I think we can go here. Yeah. So this happened. This is a really sad game. Now I remember what happened. So he had many ways to draw, but again I think this endgame is so annoying for white. Bishop g7 was a really nice shot. Here I just go king f5 and win. King f5. It went from +7 to -57. During the game, this was a blitz game. Yeah, I remember. Such painful memories. During the game, well, I was tilting because I was 2200. So this wasn't played so long ago. Yeah. So I was tilting, and because in November I made this breakthrough to 2200 blitz, and I was sad to see it go. So I went out the 2100s, and here I was in this position against the 1900s. I was like, sure, I do whatever and win. And I was like, here, yeah, I only need to be careful of forks, but no, there are none. And then when I play h7, wait, what the? The knight g5 check is a fork. Yeah, that sent me into a tilting spree. Okay. So this 11th game, let's see how it unfolded. Yeah, what happened here? Okay, so a bit of a weird move order. Again, I shouldn't go for this because this is bad. This is even worse because the knight gets so active. But somehow Yeah, there was really nothing in this game. Yeah, e6 check just wins. Because of king h7 you go e7 and you promote. But I missed that, unfortunately, because it's a bullet game. So see, even though I'm entering the wrong versions of this endgame, I still get winning positions. Even here I was winning. Oh, don't tell me I stalemated the guy. So you still get good positions because it's practically very difficult to play with knight, even though there are forks and stuff like that, like happened in this very tough 10th game. So number 12. Okay, I don't want this video to be 2 hours long, so let's try to get it to an hour and a half, maybe. So the king on a8. Yeah, here just go g4 and enter the endgame. I have it in the notes. Melmania. g5 is very wrong. You should go f5. I'm not so sure it's that wrong here, but yeah. Oh, look at these tactics. And again, white achieved the winning position. See the power of this endgame. Even in the wrong versions of it, where black is better, not better, where black is theoretically drawing, you still have big practical chances to win. Oh no, this is some bad bullet technique. And draw, right? Ooh. Yeah, the players were obviously in bad time pressure here. It lasted so long. Oh, wins on time. Just one move away from me. Dang, that sucks. Anyway. So the king is on b8. Now the collinear rook d6 makes some sense. So yeah, unfortunately all of these white players are doing it wrong, but I mean, what I'm teaching you isn't something that's commonly known, unfortunately. Yeah, but still white is managing to win, because black also is playing incorrectly, because the endgame is so tough to play correctly. So here is where I'll skip the opening a bit. Again, a shot in the dark. Oh no. Ah, so c5 is played here. I go for g3. Okay, this is some very weird kind of transposition. Yeah, this isn't really relevant to what we're discussing. Here, of course, the endgame is just... probably it's lost for white. And now suddenly it's won. Yeah, the h-pawn is just so tricky. Yeah. They won on time. Funny. Okay, game number 15. So, what happened here? Again, this shot in the dark. You can see how much my rating improved. When was this? 2016. In a year, I added like almost 300 points. Yeah. G5. Nope. 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 B3 was necessary. Oh, I even lose a pawn by force as well. And somehow I won this game also. Okay, black didn't want to draw, and rightfully so. But I hope I won. Oh, I won this on the board. Yeah, here. No, it comes with check. I was thinking maybe queen d5 check picks up the 9. Yeah, here there was no reason to lose a knight. Yeah. So, and probably black had drawing chances, but somehow I maneuvered my king. This is such ridiculous. I love bullet, man. Such ridiculous chess being played. So yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, interesting stuff. Oh, black goes for c5 here. This is an interesting version of it, but yeah, black going for c5 should probably be under the deviations tab. That sort of enters this endgame, sort of does. Yeah, taking with the bishop is better to keep an eye on g7. And here, yeah, probably not taking immediately, maybe just queen g4 or something. Or queen e4. No, queen e4 loses the pawn anyway. Yeah, maybe, or queen e3 loses the queen. Queen g4, yeah. Keeping an eye on this. And so here, maybe queen d3 here, I'm not sure. Still get a good position anyway, right? These are bullet tricks. With the bishop g7. And yeah, I end up winning here. Thanks to the h-pawn yet again. So the h... Oh no. Oh no, come on, come on. That's so sad. I hope I had like 1 second here. No, but I didn't have 1 second because the game went on for long after that. At chess.com there are 0.1 second pre-moves only, so the game went... I had at least 3 seconds here. At least. When I did this genius move. Oh no. Okay. So the final game of the sample, then we'll look at the deviations. Comp, don't go wonky on me. Compy wonky, don't go wonky. So yeah. Deviations. Coming up. So c5 here. Also a very similar line to the one we played that other game. Yeah, this is... Oh, this is Horowitz versus Chessbra, nice. So yeah, Chessbra being a 2600 GM. I'm not sure who was on this account actually. Eric doesn't play the Caro-Kann. Who plays the Caro-Kann? Lefong plays the Dragon. I mean, they play a variety of openings. I'm not sure who it was back then on the account. I think that's Horowitz. Horowitz is very strong. So the same line we saw in the 16th game. Here, yeah, just g5 and you get the past h-pawn. So yeah, but it's a bullet against Chessbra. So even though Horowitz is very strong, you can't expect much. Yeah, so deviations tab. Let's take a look at what black should play, which is c5, of course. Yeah, this is what black should play, c5. And here probably just knight e5, keeping a strong post here. Even though it loses this pawn, but this is a nice gambit to do. So yeah, this position is like with these advanced pawns, now it's my bishop who's bad, so this is a terrible version of the endgame, completely terrible. And it only arises because white didn't play properly beforehand, so yeah. What you gotta do? Undercooked chicken versus the mysterious but not so mysterious ultimate SHSL gamer. King a8. Whoa, bishop fa. Yeah, here just go for, if not the end game, just a natural move like g4. But somehow the anti-positional c5. So yeah, that's why I don't like c5 so much in the Caro-Kann. I just don't like this plan, but yeah. So, and white ends up getting outplayed here. Again, this is a hyperbullet match versus the mysterious yet not so mysterious ultimate SHSL gamer. So, the undercooked chicken is very strong himself, but Yeah. Game by Chess Network. Gotta love Jerry. So I think he deviated with g3 here. Yeah, g3. Would have got knight e5, but okay. I mean, if you have that option to go for that endgame, I think I think it's basically lost. So a very phenomenal tactics by Jerry here. Whoa, quite insane tactics by Jerry. Dang, nice. Alright, and easy win. Okay, so g3 is possible, but I mean, I didn't spend an hour and a half analyzing the endgame for no reason, right? So if you can go for it, go for it. Alright, so this one is... he goes for e5 here. Of course a mistake, because after this... Yeah, here just... no, I think here now... can just take here. Right? Yeah. He has to give up the rook. If he takes with the bishop, we give a check. So if he goes here, now we go f4, because the rook isn't protected. So that was a tactic I missed. But I end up winning a bishop anyway. And my conversion is a bit weird, because this endgame is drawn. But, yeah. I go for this. And black gets greedy and wants to win, thankfully, so he loses. But this way to convert is very stupid. I mean, why give up an entire piece to convert? Here just go like queen e3 or whatever. Yeah, anyway. Here I want to show you what happens if we go for a kingside attack. This was a good game by me. So we just push our pawn to g4, pawn sacrifice, and then if it's taken, go to g1. And yeah, this is a good model game to follow. So this is if black castles kingside in Caro-Kann. Now of course there are much better options to counteract the attack. Like a5 is already a bit too slow, I think. Yeah. And b5 is just... Yeah, the pawn storm by black is way too slow. This isn't the Yugoslav attack where black has a fast pawn storm. So playing the opposite side's castle in Caro-Kann requires some precision by black. But we'll cover this in another video. And now... Okay, here, finally, black goes for c5, which is what we want to see. And this endgame is... well, I mean, the position arising after this is sort of okay for... I end up losing this game. But the position arising here is okay for both sides. I mean, it's a bit dry. There are like some winning chances for both sides, but it's a bit dry. Probably it's just a draw. So if you feel like your opponent, when you're 2500 and you feel your opponent knows this variation very well, just go for the advanced Caro-Kann, because I think white isn't gaining much at very top level. If people know the entire theory and the entire endgame and whatnot of the Caro-Kann, then I think white isn't doing so hotly. I mean, in terms of an advantage, it's just a draw. But here, actually, after queen c6, I could just take a7. Maybe I was fearful of some b6 stuff here. Yeah, but b6 is nothing here. Can just go here. What about bishop c5 though? Check. Then this sort of repeats, but then I go here. queen b7, let's just take with the queen. Yeah, so okay, so that's it for this lesson. So we learned, so let's go and sum up the lesson. Okay, so common piece placements. The white pieces belong, the kingside knight belongs on e5. The bishop belongs on d3 or c2 or b1, anywhere where it can create the kingside battery. And the queen on e4, d3 or c2. The rooks on a1 and on d1, where they pressurize the center and defend d4. And the queenside knight probably can be maneuvered from d2 to c4, or maybe a3, c4 in some lines, so that's possible. And the black pieces, the knight should belong on d7 usually, and the knight on f6. The bishop on e7 or d6, usually it's correlated where black decides to castle. If on e7 you castle kingside, so that you have better protection of the kingside. If on d6 you go for a more active option, so you go for queenside castling. Though that's not like a very rigid rule. You could go d6 and castle kingside, or e7 and castle queenside, but that's in general the piece placement. And the queen on c7, where it gives black the flexibility to castle either queenside or kingside, and it contributes to dark square control. And the rooks on a8 and on e8 and d8, where they control the center. Now the white plans are the kingside attack. White wants to go for a kingside attack, and gaining space with c4 and h4, and also finally the c5 knight d6 plan, which to be honest I don't like so much. The black plans are of course the c5 e5 breaks, with the e5 break being harder to achieve. Pressure on d4, the semi-open file, so we use our rook to pressure d4, especially if white decides to push his c pawn, so that's no longer on c3, it's on c4 or c5. So he goes with the third plan, if white goes for the third plan. And also we have b5, so that when white pushes c4, we counteract with b5, whereby white either pushes c5 and the d pawn is weak, or he takes and he no longer has control over d5. Okay, in terms of the general concept of this lesson, well, the Caro-Kann endgame shouldn't be sought after by black. So we should totally avoid this bishop versus knight battle. Black should instead avoid it by playing c5 early on, where the character of the position completely changes. And white should only enter the simplified version of this endgame, with no queens. If there are queens, black has too much activity. So if you can't get into a queenless version of this endgame, then don't enter the endgame at all, and instead play in the center and try to win from there, or attack the weak kingside pawns, especially g7 and f7. And if black sets up with knight e7 and king c8, don't enter the endgame at all, as we saw in one of the games, or actually multiple. And with the king on a8, the king is so far away, it's endgame time. So yeah, I hope you got something out of this video. I guess the second topic will be white castling queenside, black castling queenside, and black playing c5 early on. So I know this isn't as comprehensive as a book, but to be honest, compared to the chess videos out there and literature, it's quite comprehensive. Almost, I aim for like 10 hours for this Caro-Kann series, at least. Okay, so look forward to the next videos. See you guys later.